We're having some technical difficulties, but anyway,
we're in.
We're in. Family Matters with Kevin Petersen. How are you, sir?
Hey, brother, Jay. Good to see you. Family Matters with Jay Staples at the Sober Caddy and Kevin Petersen from Jay Walker Lodge, live in Carbondale, Colorado.
In the Jay Walker podcast studio. Look at you.
We're gonna make this thing fly, baby.
If we don't get in the way, I mean, that's the biggest
absolutely.
issue is us, but we will try flying nonetheless. So, anyway, we do this to the best of our abilities every single week. We may be switching up the times and dates, and we got to figure out all kinds of podcast studios and all kinds of technical issues. But anyway, Kevin is live in Colorado. I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. Ooh. And we answer questions from families. And just what I love about it is just you can see the desperation in all these questions. So let's get right into it, unless there's something you want to talk about.
No, we're going to, this is now going to be a Jay Walker Lodge Sober Caddy production. Yeah, Sober Caddy production. And we may actually start bringing in another person to, because your questions are getting a little tough, so I might need some backup. We'll see.
It's just that's just a way of Kevin to say, like, we're trying to push Jay out. But I would love to have other people, because these questions I love it, and families love it. So the more brains, the better, because we only have one brain right now, because that's Kevin. So alrighty, I wanted to get into this. I love this, and I think you'll love it too. Now I can't find it, of course, but she asked, well, both of us, but I'll ask you, Kevin. What was a turning point in your work? Any case or story that changed your career?
Ooh, okay, that is a really good one. I'll tell you what it was. Well, so I graduated from Regis University with my master's in marriage and family therapy in August of 2011. Pardon me. And I then worked for basically 3 years for Arapahoe Douglas Mental Health. That's a Medicaid based provider in South Denver. Pardon me, got the burps all of a sudden. And I did it for 3 years. It was great. I was child and family services. I was on a crisis team. I was in the ER all the time, and I was part-time working at a psych unit as well that we owned, called the Bridge House down in Littleton, Colorado. And then I opened up my private practice in April of 2014. And so I was doing 1 day a week private practice, full-time, or agency work. And a funny thing happened. In that first month, I had 6 slots. A full day, 6 slots is a full day for a private practice therapist. They got filled instantly in April, just instantly. So in May, I opened up. That was all day Friday, and then I filled up a Tuesday evening and a Saturday afternoon, and in May, and those got filled instantly. And what was happening is I was making more money in 2 days in private practice than I was full time working for a community mental health agency. So the first answer to the question is that's when I made the shift and bounced out to full-time private practice. And I never looked back. Things sort of blew up right off the bat. And here's why. This was in Denver, Colorado. Colorado had just legalized recreational marijuana that year, 2014. And I had a line at the door of families saying, oh my God, what do we do with our 16-year-old, our 26-year-old, our 36-year-old, my husband, my wife, my dad? They're high all day, and I have no idea how to handle it. So for me, that was the turning point, was making that move. I hope I've answered that question. I know it was a long-winded answer to a short question, but for me, what happened was I opened my doors So what happened, I would go home and tell my wife, oh my God, it's the same people every single day asking the same questions. What do I do? What do I do? And she's like, you should write a book. So I wrote my first book in 2017, and then I wrote another book in 2020, and then I joined Jaywalker Lodge a year ago, where I'm implementing all my strategies, and we're having ridiculous, incredible success in the process. So yeah, sorry, I just
No, no, I love it. I mean, it's turning points. I mean, I just taking time with people like Kevin Petersen or anyone, and I mean, I started climbing my way in different roles within the industry, and I found myself getting really upset with families on the phone or current families that are in treatment, and I'm just saying, like, why can't they just do as we say or whatever it is. So my turning point is an ongoing process, just because I'm shocked at I had to be open to the fact that families were doing their best. They just weren't educated or knowledgeable, or just fear, shame, guilt, family secrets or anything like that. So when I think the turning point is when I shifted into understanding families may not be educated, may not be knowledgeable, may just be in fear. They're exhausted. Instead of just saying, what's wrong with you? I want families to be more educated. And hence, we started doing this just because it's a small way of kind of educating in my opinion. So I
yeah.
love it. So my turning point is ongoing. Every single learning more and more, sitting back, listening to Kevin, listening to other people, knowledgeable within the family dynamics. So, and then using my own experience as on the other side of that addicted individual, and what I was thinking, what I was seeing. Um, Interested. We have another. How do you approach situations where a family is divided? Some want to intervene, others just want to cut ties and have nothing to do with them. Some are just throw their hands up in the air. How do you deal with a family divided?
That's a great question, and man, do I get that all the time. You know, definitely get people that are very angry and want nothing to do with the person, and they kind of have the position of, you know what, just bring him back when he's better. I don't want to talk to him. I want nothing to do with him. Interestingly enough, those guys tend to be older. The younger guys, the families are still like, okay, we're willing to take a shot at this. But the older guys, I mean, like 35, 40, 45, they're like, just get them the hell out of here. And but then there's also generally someone in the family system that is what we would call sort of an internal advocate, right? Where they were like, no, 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 we really want to, help. And so when we have those two forces kind of going together, what I do is, if the people that are angry are willing to talk to me, I'm willing to have that conversation with them and say, God, I totally understand. And if I were you, I'd be exactly in the same place. I'd feel exactly the same way. But here's the deal, and just hear me out on this. Our statistics show, if you get involved in helping support this process, his chances of staying sober and changing who he is as a person are much, much better. And I'm not saying that you have to do anything other than read some stuff, watch a couple of videos. You don't have to. I don't expect you to babysit this guy or take care of him or anything. Pay his bills, nothing. I just want to educate you, and let's just do some psychoeducation. Watch some videos, listen to some books, podcasts. That's it. That generally brings them along, because what they're used to is, oh, you need to come here and we're all going to sit down and we're going to slug it out. And I'm like, nope, we ain't doing that.
Mhm.
That's not how I run family weekend. It's not how I run the family meetings. My family meetings are just the family, not the guy. you know the guy has his own therapist, his own team. He's got his own. I want him working on him, and I want them working on them, and then we cycle back in together when everybody feels like they're ready. you know and when there's one person in the family system that's in it, I can coach them on how to talk to the rest of the family and sort of slowly bring them across. And what it really comes down to, Jay, is proof in the pudding. You're either doing it or you're not. You're either showing up or you're not, and that's the end of the conversation.
Well, I mean, what just kept bouncing around my head when you were talking, though, is
Mm-hmm.
we talked about. There's another question here a couple of weeks ago. How do you measure success within the family? How do you measure success within the individual? What I found, and I'll just say a general statement, is families struggle with, they want success, or they want to label anything success or failure. The success is an ongoing process, and keeping boundaries in, and it is recovery. If anyone ever says recovery is a really simple process, they're lying to you. Recovery is extremely hard. I went through it, but that is also for the family too, and the family needs to understand that we may have to hold on tightly to very, very small victories. So
Yeah, well, that's what it is, right? It's inches and seconds, right?
yeah.
It's not, there's no magic pills. There's no magic therapy. There's no, and it just takes moments after continually working and building the foundation. And then the next thing you know, we actually like each other, so who would have
Yeah.
thought?
Yeah. All those things, the intervention, the cutting off, the walking away, the throwing up in the hands. I mean, given sufficient, like, healthy boundaries, those are all really good ideas. You don't have to be hanging out with the individual 24/7. I mean, you can throw in some very healthy boundaries if, sibling or whatever it may be. So all those are, you can do all of them and still be involved with the family change, is what I got from you.
Yeah, no, I mean, by all means, the family change is probably boundaries first, and just holding the person accountable and saying, we love you, and the answer is no. And we need to see you put some time and effort into getting off drugs and alcohol, becoming self-supporting, and taking care of your mental health. And if we see those things start to happen, then we'll start getting more engaged. So yeah.
So we have another
Yeah,
long one, but I mean,
I love long ones.
really long one, because they're just going on and on about how great what we do is, because we simplify it. Basically, I'm paraphrasing, but what they were saying is we've gone through, a couple of treatment options. We've done the therapist, and it just seems like they overwhelm us. And what you guys do is simplify everything. So she says, if there's really any one question that I have, she'd be interested in hearing what's one thing every family can do today to create healthier dynamics at home if you have a loved one struggling.
One thing that everyone can do right now, today, no questions asked, and you're going to love my answers. You read my book, because it really does detail exactly what you're asking. What can we do? How do we put together a plan? How do we offer support? How do we do it with proper boundaries? And it's available on Amazon. It's $9.99. It's not expensive. You can get it on Audible. You can get it on Kindle. And I'm not shilling, to be totally honest. It's because what's the one thing we can do? Well, is educate yourself on addiction, recovery, and codependency, and that's what that book does. And I'll tell you why I say this. Every single family that reads that book tells me the same thing. God, I needed this 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I know, and that's why I wrote it. And so, that's really the answer to the question is, just do a little bit of education, do a little bit of knowledge, and then we can start talking about what the next steps are. And in the book we talk about plan A, which is telling your loved one, hey, look, from here forward, we love you, but we're going to hold you accountable for not using drugs, becoming self-supporting, and taking better care of yourself. And if you're not going to do that, we're going to go to plan B. And plan B is you're going to talk to our friend Jay. He's going to talk about, we're going to do an intervention, and you're going to end up at a place like Jaywalker. And so it's that there are steps to the process. But the first thing any family can do is educate themselves. And that's why I wrote that book.
Yeah. Notice, I mean, you didn't put 30-day treatment in there. I mean, 30-day treatment can be a part of the plan, but that's another thing that families need to understand is like a 30-day fix is not, it does not exist. But I always
The
tell families there's no instruction manual, but there very well could be. It could be Kevin's book.
you know, I like to think that's where I'm coming, and it's not a solve. It doesn't solve everybody's problem. It doesn't fix everybody's stuff. But for me, at least, the families that I work with, that when they come to me and they're like, "Oh my God, I needed this information 5 years ago, 10 years ago." He's already been to half a dozen 30-day programs. We've tried IOP, we've tried therapy, we've tried psychiatry, we've tried taking them to church and praying on them, and none of that stuff works, or it works for a little bit and then it doesn't go anywhere. And so that's where I try to create a more comprehensive vision. So yeah.
Yeah, it's something tangible. I mean, you can more than welcome keep watching our videos on repeat anytime something pops up. But
Yep.
there's something to be said about having that book that you can read in your free time. You can reread. You can pass it over to husband or wife or sibling and read this chapter. It's something that it is the closest thing to an instruction manual. So
Yeah.
because families are just getting overwhelmed, and so
Yeah. Yeah.
any kind of
Well,
book would be and we can also give you several other books beyond Chronic Hope if you have issues more. um what
yeah.
did oh so this is, I think, a sibling, and she said, I'll make this pretty simple. She asked, is addiction more about trauma than substance abuse? And then goes on and on about,
Mm.
I find it very tough for my brother to ever truly heal, or put sobriety in quotations. But she was ultimately saying, she's asking, is addiction more about trauma than substance abuse? And then goes into, I
Yeah.
feel there's so much trauma within the family dynamics
Yeah.
through no fault of anyone's own, but dad had a tough upbringing, mom, substance abuse all in the history. And so she basically says, like, I think she's more asking about family trauma than individual kind of
Yeah.
substance
Yeah. Yeah.
abuse.
Sure, sure, sure. I totally get it. It's a great question, and it's one that I get all the time. And I want to be clear with you that my position is that trauma does not cause substance abuse. And here's why. It sounds like you and your brother grew up in a fairly rocky childhood situation, yet he has an addiction problem and you don't. So if you were there experiencing all the same stuff, why aren't you an addict? It doesn't work that way. Does trauma escalate things or expedite things? Absolutely, no questions asked. It certainly brings it to the surface a lot quicker, because when you're dealing with the emotional impact of trauma, some people reach for drugs and alcohol or porn or gambling or shopping or who knows what. And then once that kicks in and starts, they can't stop. So substance abuse and addiction are a standalone concept. They are not caused by something else. That's just not. Now, can trauma expedite it? Can it make it worse? Absolutely, no questions asked. But because and then the logical response is like, well, then let's just resolve the trauma and the substance abuse will go away. Well, that doesn't happen. You know, so, in order to get to help your brother, we have to eliminate the substance abuse first. We have to get a super strong foundation of sobriety, and I'm not saying no mental health. I'm not that's nuts. He'll definitely, he definitely should be seeking mental health work as well. But to think that you're going to dive into doing deep trauma work when somebody's newly sober, all that does is reopen the wound and probably pop their head open. And so, we always tell people it generally takes about 90 days to 6 months to get somebody settled, and then when they're sober, and then they can start doing trauma work. And you and I have seen this in our own personal experience in our 12-step engagement community. People get sober and they rush right into trauma work, and then it just freaks them out, because they're so overwhelmed, and then they go back to using. So it's more of a slow, steady, and you've got to build a sober foundation. That has to come first. And then we can go after that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think amazing. Yeah. I mean, you're definitely, I mean, those are all around me. And then anytime that I get heavily involved with that, I mean, it's family needs their own work and family needs help, whatever it may be. But I mean, it's obviously dysfunctional, somewhat family. They're trying to hold it together, but this is where we talk about where family work comes into. If the family changes, success rates skyrocket. So this is a Kevin question for sure, and he hit it nail on the head. But so
Yeah.
you we'll go real. I mean, we'll go one more in.
Okay.
So, and I think this is. I'm going to paraphrase their question in
Okay.
something I talked about. And it's more and more coming up and so forth. And with Jaywalker, we can correlate. Jaywalker keeps them active for long periods of time and so forth. What the question is basically performed at is, I'll just say in my own question is, I think early recovery and boredom is I don't think people getting in early recovery can deal with boredom very well at all. And
No.
this is a question where after several, treatment centers, she's basically saying, and it's true, he's coming from treatment. You got anyone coming from treatment, it's all regimented. I mean, it's all written out for you where you need to be. It says free time, but more often than not, free time means you can go here, or here, and we'll have some, so it's not really ever free time. So you leave this programming and go into quote unquote real life. And even if it's a sober living, all of a sudden you have hours of your day that open up and you're just stuck with your thoughts.
Yep. Yep.
Just in general, when it says early recovery and boredom, use whatever Kevin Petersen words and take it wherever you want to go with that.
So yeah, you're coming out of a highly structured environment. The guys here at Jaywalker get up at 7 in the morning. They do check-in, they do meditation, they do group, they go to yoga, they go to the gym, they go for a hike. I mean, it's bang, 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 bang. They generally are running dinners at 5, then they go to meetings, and they're probably crashing down about 7 or 8.
Yeah.
And then that's in the first program, the first phase, which we call primary, and then the secondary program, solutions. It's a little bit different. It's because this is exactly what happens is they have 3 days of programming, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then starting on Thursday, they're allowed to work. So our goal is to give them, structure, but more like individual structure, more like, okay, there's no hanging out, no sitting around. And then the next phase after that is sober living. So from my experience personally, I found that I needed to have a very set schedule. I needed to have a lot of, because I came out, I mean, about you, but when I was drinking and doing drugs, it was just like, woohoo, who knows what we're doing today? We could be going to the moon, I'm going to, wherever, and I'm going to Disneyland. But, and I had to get into an environment where I was waking up at a specific time, going to the gym, going to work, boom, 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 go to the meeting. And by the time I came home, it was 9 o'clock and I was wasted. I was done. I was tired. I went to bed and I did it again the next day. That kind of structure is invaluable for people that are new. And if you don't have a job or you don't need a job or whatever, there's plenty of stuff to do. You can go to meetings, you can volunteer, you can engage, you can go back to school. It's just about, laying around the house and doing nothing. Oh no, that's bad. What's the old phrase? Idle hands are the devil's workshop. you know so structure, community, engagement. Get in there, get crack-a-lackin', go volunteer at the animal shelter, go volunteer at the local AA office, go volunteer at the food bank or the shelter, whatever. Give of yourself and help others. Yeah.
Get outside of yourself. The key, community,
Yeah.
connection, getting outside. It's not exactly. I mean, you took the words right out of my mouth, but All righty, Kevin. We'll do this each and every week and continue sending these questions. And no question, we still get them all the time. That this, I think you've already answered this, or this seems like a dumb question. Send it anyway. And if to me, if the question keeps popping up, that means we just haven't done a good enough job explaining it or coming at a different angle. So you never know. Keep sending the questions in. And Kevin, I'll see you next week.
All right, my brother. Good to see you.
Bye.